Hello everybody and welcome back to Let's Play The Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse. I'm Mr. Devious, or just Deeb, and today we're going to start the final level of the game. Level 6, Pete's Castle. I was right the first time in the last level. So Mickey takes off his clothes and treks across these plains that came from the glaciers. Well, I guess you can see the windows up there. You know how expensive lighting is? Uh-huh. Poetic. You were gonna leave. Personally, I think after Fire Grotto, this should be much less intimidating. And where did that door go when it went up? Okay, 6-1, Pete's Castle, the final world of the game. We're gonna probably be using all of our outfits in this place. This is the final level. It's pretty big, it's pretty long, and it has some branching paths. It sounds really gross. But I like this level. We start with some blueberries. This level is filled with these peat mooks that have just been kind of randomly scattered throughout the other levels of the game. So we're just gonna, first we're gonna use Mountaineer Kirby because there's some platforming sections around here. We're gonna climb up and around. This is probably, I think each section of this castle was designed with a different suit or bunch of suits in mind. Oh, they respawn. Great. With a different suit or pair of suits in mind. As far as final levels go, this is pretty good, actually. I like it. It's less linear than the other levels, actually. Not that there's any big maze or anything. I mean, there are a few sections that serve to deceive, and this was a complete waste of time, going up that way. Also, this LP. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, maybe for you. So here we have a weird trampoline thing, but if you stand on it too long... Oh, that look of horror on its face. I feel bad. We're actually going to go down here in the water, because like in Fire Grotto, where there's water, there are secrets. And I will not ignore secrets. We still get money, because there's one more shop in the game, so it's still sort of kind of relevant, I suppose, if you need a refill. I'm not sure if the last place has some kind of upgrade you can feasibly buy, but if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's no big deal. Actually, for how short this game is, it does offer a lot in the way of upgrades, I guess you could say. I mean, not really. There are only 2 in addition to the ones you automatically get, that being doubling your water capacity and doubling your magic capacity. But either way, we'll get rid of this guy's thing and get hurt. But yeah, the fact of the matter is you don't need the magic upgrade or the water upgrade, but they are nice to have. These things are just, they're cute. I actually like these things. There's water down here. And you heard what I said about water. It kills you. No. When I said there was a shop down here, I wasn't kidding. This is the door to the shop. Presumably it's flooded. But not really. Huh. So I guess there is another heart on sale. Well, seeing as I have 182 coins, I'm just gonna grind for a bit and then buy it. I'll be right back. And this should be topping us off. Yep. Oh, I should have grabbed that heart. Took some damage from being in the water too long. The only reason I'm doing this is because I have 180 coins anyway. May as well spend them on something before the end of the game. This is the last shop in the game. Coins have become pointless. Oh, I better change into the wizard outfit before I start drowning again. So the wise thing to do would be just to get rid of these things while possible, because they are instant kill if they get you. Unfortunately, they are invincible for whatever reason when they're in the water, but they're gone. Now, we're going to change back into Mountaineer Kirby so we can cling our way up here, and they respawn! The fish. Also these dudes, but dangerous platforming is what this is. And actually, this late in the game, we have a new kind of block, but we're going to be looking at it in a few seconds. First, we're going to head over this way, because I have to explore everything, obviously. And look! Coins! Coins that are now pointless. So we come up here, we jump up on these trampolines, and if we go in this door over here, this Pete statue over here, it actually doesn't take us to the next section. It takes us back a little bit, where there's more treasure. Pointless, pointless, pointless treasure. Well, okay, I guess that wasn't so worthless after all, so I guess it's worth showing off a little bit. But we go back through this door and it just cycles us back around. So I'll meet you back where we were. Alright, so last time we took the trampolines up, but I neglected to show these off. You spin them and jump on them, and you can ride them. If you're good at aiming, you can also collide them with a couple enemies, but not so much in this room. So here on the right, we have a carpet. A magic carpet for our magical quest, so just duck under those, it's easier that way. So the carpet brings us up to the door where we actually need to go. That will take us to the next section that's filled with horrible knives. This is not safe. This is not nice. I don't like it. The most deadly part about this stage is that these walls, that these spikes, are instant kill. So if you touch them, you gotta do the whole section over again. And it's surprisingly easy to fall off of this thing. The best thing to do is to duck down and then steer that way, because then you don't walk when you're ducking. So you can't just walk yourself off the edge of the carpet, which you might do if you're standing. Also, ducking decreases your hitbox, so that's nice too. So we spin back and forth because that's the only way you can manage a narrow corridor like that. And I do believe we're actually nearly at the end, but I don't want to jump and kill myself by accident. That would be incredibly dumb. And yeah, we're at the end. May as well jump down. We move on to part 3. And here are these blocks again, like I was mentioning before. So we can grab those. But what can we use them for? Against these guys. But this is kind of a dumb way of doing things. The better way is to use the hose and extinguish their flames before they kill you, like they're doing to me. So as you can see, this level does a good job of showcasing all of your abilities, because the last section, well, the first section was the Mountaineer, the second section was, I guess you could say, the Magician, though we'll still be using that in a little bit, and now we get to use the Fire Hose, I guess you could say. The hose can also knock back bullets. Not bullets, cannonballs. It's all combined in a very nice and fairly seamless way. Every section clearly gets its own power-up. And I'm taking a lot of hits here, but to be fair, this is a pretty hard section. And dead. Actually, just spraying these guys with just even a little bit of water kills them. Which, it's funny because they're decked out in pretty full armor. So, I don't know, what's that stuff made of? Glass? Even then, this has to be some pretty high pressure water. So up here is a trap, but if you just stand there, you can get through pretty easily. So as I was saying, what I like about this game is how they make each stage devoted to 1 or 2 power-ups, and now this final stage makes you take advantage of everything you have in your arsenal, with each section sort of devoted to each power-up, and I really like that. I recently played the sequel to this game, which is The Great Circus Mystery, starring Mickey and Minnie. And it was very similar to this game, with the platforming and the ability to grab things, and it had 3 different suits. None of them were as fun, and none of them were as designed as well for the game. And that's where that thing went. None of them were designed so well in terms of... It didn't feel like the game was designed very well on a whole, and you were constantly having to switch between the power-ups. And they just didn't feel as satisfying. You had a vacuum gun, you had a bouncy horse thing that shot cork pellets, and you had a hiker, which was kind of like the mountaineer, but without the extension. He just had a hook in his hand. We come back in here, we actually have an old enemy, who I hate. So, now that we're in Pete's Castle, we've found a few, Wait a minute, we're not in the jungle, not in the forest anymore. What is that thing hanging from? I don't know. I don't know what this thing is. This is the most offensive mini-boss. And if he didn't have such a long invincibility frame, he could be dead pretty quickly. As I'm handling it quite poorly. There. That's probably my least favorite mini-boss in the game, just for his erratic jumping and his throwing of spikes. So now that he's dead, if you go back in, you have to fight him again, so don't go back in there, I guess you could say. Kind of a weird design choice, but whatever. So we come back to using the fire hose, because these blocks from the 3rd stage are still here, as was already displayed earlier, and they still squish you, and it still hurts. And you still have to wait around for them to come around. And it's still kind of finicky on the hitboxes. Not my favorite part of this game, but as we're coming up on the end, this really is a good game. I think it is a well-designed game for all of its little flaws, for all its imperfect hitboxes and frustrating bosses. It's a good game. And now we actually have the first boss again. Or the first mini-boss. Who is a lot different now that we have magic. In fact, he's a lot... See? That's all. That's all. Unfortunately, we are now out of magic, and we need to remedy this situation by going somewhere with magic. First, we're going to knock this over here, and then we're going to go up in the direction we're actually meant to go. I just wanted to show off the first boss in particular because of how jokingly easy he becomes with magic. But I didn't mean to switch. We want to switch back to fire hose person. We actually want to wash it over this way. Actually, I didn't want to do that yet. And now that it comes back over our way, we ride it on up to the final area of the game. We wash this guy because he's dirty. We use the default outfit one more time and we just get rid of him. Now, if I remember correctly, the left door leads to the final boss. We're not going to go in there yet. I would like to get a refill on my magic, which you can get during the final boss, but then I also want to, may as well finish up these final mini-bosses. Now we're restuck on magic entirely. And have to fight this jerk again. But it's okay. It's okay. Actually, I'm a little curious now how the fireman handles against this jerk. It doesn't seem particularly well, given the... It's mostly because the water does gradual damage, and it's... So Fireman was a bust, because this guy has long invincibility frames, but, you know, that's whatever. He's still easy with magic. So that's all of the mini-bosses redefeated. We didn't have to do all that, but I don't know. I like boss rushes at the end of a game. Capcom has kind of made me a... Oops. Capcom has kind of made me a sucker for boss rushes, and I just like them thematically. Just your old foes getting another chance to beat you down, and then you just trounce them all over again, and just leave the final enemy standing in this final room. So now we go on to the final boss. Emperor Pete. So those spirits we've been exercising throughout the game, they're back. And together they unite as one. Into Emperor Pete, the final boss. This is Emperor Pete, obviously, which I've said like 2 or 3 times now. This is a pretty interesting boss fight, because he'll cast spells that manipulate the terrain, not so much attacking you directly right away, and sends walls of these things at you, for whatever reason. And his only weak spot is his face. This is actually a pretty fun boss fight, for all things considered, even though I'm not really hitting him much. You can only attack him when he's not casting magic, so when his hands are down, because his magic forms a barrier, I suppose. Or maybe his teeth are immune and his jaw is the weak point. I am performing poorly, and if you kill those things, you get refills on magic, so I suppose the mini-bosses really were redundant. Oops. Though I'm not really that sorry. They don't take that long. Okay, fine, I'm sorry. This is also a pretty ridiculous outfit. I mean, that shade of green is so bright. And on the box for the game, in the cartridge of the game, he wears a brown coat. I guess I like green better. Bread. I like green better, but it looks a little silly. Just the colors, it's a bit much. In terms of final bosses, though, this is pretty fun, because it's a showdown, magic to magic. And he doesn't attack you directly right away. But I like the sound. I think that sound, when you hit enemies in this game, when you hit him, every time you hit him, it's like the enemy defeated sound. Oh, and he's already down to his final phase. When he's about to bite it, I want to get him to... I want to see him use some of his other spells, but he's not really doing them. Hopefully he will. Not there. Because he has 2 more spells he hasn't shown off yet. And I wonder why. Sadly and tragically. And oh, here's one of them. First he shoots flames out from the ground. I think it's cool that he has alternate animations for this spell, though I think it would have been even cooler if he had other animations for other spells. So we're down to 1 hit, and I don't think he's going to do his final attack, where he just kind of shoots a bolt of energy at you. So I'm just going to try and finish him off as best I can. For Pluto! Oh, that was failed. If you can line those up, you can get rid of them pretty easily, pretty reliably. Oh, he's doing it here. And he won. Oops. Funnily enough, in this boss fight, he is also vulnerable to the fire hose, but I don't use that so much because it's hard to hit him with it and quite silly, frankly, but... And I think he takes massively less damage, just like that fire mini-boss. But now that we've actually got to this stage of the fight with decent amounts of health, I think we're nearly at the end. And what kind of guy uses a letter for... That's a huge brooch. And that's it! Mickey looks absolutely ecstatic, even though he's not looking the right way. And that's it. We've finished off Emperor Pete, and we have saved Pluto, and took off our clothes again. Aww. This story is happy end. Do you remember when I said this game stopped having relevance to Super Mario Bros. 2? In Chapter 2? Well, there was one other thing that connects the 2 stories. That's right. That's right. It was all a dream. All a dream. Which is funny because Emperor Pete makes a cameo in the next game, which isn't a dream. But whatever. Whatever. That's right, you go play your game of catch. Donald will invite you to play catch, and you will promptly ignore him. So, that's the end of the Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse. It was all a dream, but boy, it was a pretty fun dream. This was a pretty fun LP to do. Did it over the course of about 4 days. This is a short game, but as a child, when you don't have very many games, even when they're short games, you'll play them again and again for all they're worth. And that goes for especially for games like this. They're short enough that it adds to the replayability that you can just sit down one day and just play through the whole game and be done with Advisor. I'm sorry. But I'd like to say more about this game. I don't really have a lot more to say, and it's already at the end of the credits. This was developed by a pretty small team by the looks of it. Back when teams didn't have thousands of people working on them, and potentially dozens of hours that you had to sink into them. Back when you had a couple of games that you played over and over again that were short, rather than an entire backlog of games that can be tens of hours long, but you can never possibly get around to playing them all. How times have changed. Ah well. I like this game. It's a pretty fun game. Huh. So that was LP number 2. See you in the next one.